If you told the 10-year-old me, a kid so shy that he could barely even talk to himself, that he'd spend 20 years talking on television, I think I'd laugh quietly to myself.
The day that many people gathered here this morning.
In a totally unpredictable twist of events, I ended up in television journalism for 2 decades. I didn't just write stories behind the scenes. I wasn't just a producer lurking in the shadows. I had to face the camera for every single news story I covered and go live when breaking news hit. But how does a kid who could barely raise his hand in class end up having a career on television?
The idea of talking on camera, on television, made my palms all sweaty and it made my throat as dry as... That's the thing about shooting outdoors. Come for the flowers, stay for the bugs. Yeah, so the idea of talking on television made my palms all sweaty, made my throat very dry. But I figured, look, when the opportunity came up, if I didn't take the chance, I might spend the rest of my life working in a cubicle somewhere. So was it worth it to do something that was completely unnatural to me? And how did I go from being painfully shy to comfortable talking on camera? And how did talking on camera change my life anyway?
When I was growing up, everyone was getting into hairspray, drugs, and gangs. I'd always been surrounded by books. From childhood through adolescence, I became addicted to them. When I opened a book, I would tumble into the pages. As I spent most of my time reading other people's stories, the next natural step was to start writing.
It's only 7 o'clock in the morning and it's already hot as hell, but that's life on a Caribbean island. Anyway, I never thought I was going to be the next Kurt Vonnegut, the next great writer, but I believed that I would be able to make a decent living with the written word, maybe get a job at an advertising agency or something like that. But then this opportunity of a job at a television station came up and I figured, what's the harm? I should check it out. So I went to the interview not expecting anything to happen. I thought it would be a quick in and out. They would figure me out. And then, lo and behold, I got the job, and then I got really scared. So I took my first job as a TV reporter at this TV station behind me, and wow, that's more than 30 years ago now. Now, I thought at one point in time that I might not make it because this is a really frenetic, energetic environment. It's the opposite of who I am. In those news conferences, if you didn't open your mouth, you didn't get your questions answered, and I did not have a big mouth. But there was no easing into it. It was like an ice bath. You just had to dive in. This is one of my favorite places to shoot videos, even though it's a bit dreary today because it's overcast. But it also happens to be very near to the place where I did my very first real live television broadcast. It was really over there, just a few meters away from here. And it was a pretty big deal in my career. Now, I'd done live broadcasts before, but that was in a television studio environment. So that was pretty controlled. This was outdoors. It was a really chaotic environment. So this was a story. It was about a religious sect that had taken over a piece of state land and the state had moved to evict them from the property. So it was a very tense atmosphere. I had very little time to prepare. My heart was going like an old diesel engine that I thought it would cut out. And I was in my early 20s. I had to go there, learn the lay of the land very quickly, get my finger on the pulse of what was happening. I had to deal with police and army instructing me on where I could go, where I couldn't go. And it was really very tense. There was a lot going on around me. In fact, while I was doing that live broadcast on television, a woman walked behind me, nearly naked. She'd just come from swimming here. So, like I said, there was a lot going on. And afterwards, I felt as though I'd done very poorly. I thought I was terrible on television. In fact, there were quite a few people who were happy to tell me so. And that was only one of many awkward live television moments to come in my career.
It's one thing to write up a news story, go sit down in a dark editing booth and push out a news story, but it's a completely different story when you have to go live on TV without any script, as a young reporter. The first time I did that, I thought I'd die. Fortunately, I didn't, but it was quite terrifying. Trauma aside, I'm glad I did it. And I did it again and again because I understood that that was the only way I'd get any better at it. And when I took on that mindset, it relieved a whole weight off my shoulders. It freed me to make occasional flubs and mistakes on live TV because I realized that that was all part of the growth process. And in those processes, I learned something very important, and that is that I had to focus more on what I wanted than what I feared. Shyness can become a dominant part of your personality if you let it. I'd always believed that shyness was just a part of who I am. No software updates available. It was permanent. It couldn't be fixed. But in certain respects, I thought it was a positive thing because it kept me away from situations that could be overwhelming. It protected me from things that might make me feel bad about myself. But on the flip side, it also held me back from putting myself out there. As time went on, I started to realize that shyness is much more than a personality trait. It's a crippling fear, a fear of being judged, a fear of being laughed at. Getting past what you think are your limitations doesn't really remove those perceived walls. Even though I built up the confidence to talk to you on camera like I'm doing now, I'm still a card-carrying introvert. This is why we're here today, because that's exactly what I want. I just stopped letting shyness make decisions for me. I stopped letting it decide what I was capable of or who I'm supposed to be. I never really saw my shyness as a flaw. It's not something that needs to be removed, like a wart on your nose or something like that. But if you don't confront your shyness, then it can prevent you from showing up, from speaking up, from taking a risk. Lots of people seem to think that you need confidence to do the hard thing. Now, that's not how it works. Confidence comes afterwards. The first live in-studio show I ever did, I was really very nervous. I was hyperventilating quietly on the inside. Well, maybe not so quietly. I'm pretty sure the producer could hear my heartbeat through his earpiece. It was a live talk show, and I didn't think I had that much to talk about. But when it was over, 2 hours later, I thought to myself, well, I got through this thing. I mean, it was scary. I had a few flubs here and there, but I managed to make my way through it. And I realized that I can do this the next time and I will be better prepared and less nervous. That's how my confidence started to grow, because I did the hard thing. There is a place in my life I thought I'd be at by now. You don't build confidence by waiting until you feel ready. You build it by doing the job or task or whatever and proving to yourself you can handle it. Confidence is a result, not a requirement. You earn it by doing things that scare you, by screwing it up and realizing you can survive it. It's not about perfection, it's about repetition. My confidence wasn't born in the waiting, it was born in the doing. I couldn't wait for the moment to come to me, the right moment. I had to go after it, I had to grab it. My confidence grew out of my willingness to face the fears that were holding me back. The skills I learned facing the camera in my television career are worth their weight in gold in this digital economy. They've become the foundation of how I generate an income. I turn my knowledge into revenue through videos just like this. By sharing my experience and my expertise with people all over the world through videos, I can create lucrative opportunities for myself. Now, if you'd like to learn how to overcome your shyness and do exactly the same thing, well, I can walk you through what I did to accomplish that. Here's what we will do in a one-on-one 3-hour high-value coaching session. We'll go through the psychological shifts that took me from being painfully shy to actually enjoying speaking on camera. I'll help you to learn how to speak on camera in a way that connects with audiences. And I'm talking about the kind of connections that will help them to choose you over other people in your niche. And I will also help you to develop your own magnetic speaking style as a shy person so that your energy, your voice, and your delivery will feel authentic to both you and your audience. Look, showing up on camera and speaking directly with audiences like I'm doing right now,
That's the one skill that has done more for me than any connections, credentials, or qualifications have ever done. So click the link in the description below, bring your matcha, your coffee, or whatever, and let's get you started on opening new income earning doors. The single greatest power anyone can have isn't a high IQ or even a golden spoon. It's the power to say, it.
That probably sounds like hustle bro philosophy, but everything I built in my life, I only did because of those two powerful words. It doesn't matter how skilled, smart, or credentialed you are with more degrees than a thermometer. If you don't rip the tape off your mouth, the tape slapped on it by Shyness, none of those assets will amount to anything. Let me explain exactly what I mean.
One of the biggest life lessons that I had was learning to adopt the mindset to push past my risk paralysis. Those two simple but powerful words helped me to say, you know what, to hell with the consequences. Let me just try this thing and see what it does for me. And sometimes we just need to forget about all of the fears that we have about the risks and the dangers to ourselves and just embrace the power. Fuck it. Whenever I have to do something that makes me feel uncomfortable or something that I'm leery about, I ask myself two questions. How is this going to help me? And how is it going to hurt me? People's opinions, what they think about me, that's completely worthless. But the doors that doing the uncomfortable thing can open, well, that's all that matters. That is the only equation that counts.
Because I was able to break away from my shyness, that freedom unlocked my evolution, allowing me to do things, to have a career on television that would ultimately shape my life.
Even as an old-time fighter, when I look back on those days, I think to myself, wow, it was amazing I was able to do something like that, something that was completely out of character for me. It was like skydiving or petting a wild tiger, except not nearly as stupid.
The day that many people gathered...
By choosing to do battle with my shyness, going on live TV, even though I was convinced it would destroy me, I learned to express myself verbally, to tell stories in a way that would resonate and connect with audiences, people like you. That was the foundation for everything that flowed from there. It was a huge stepping stone to bigger opportunities in my career and eventually paved the way to me becoming the digital entrepreneur I am today. So that was my story. Now, I'd actually like to hear yours. Is shyness something that you're battling? Let's talk about it in the comments below.